Chief Deputy Donna Turner interviewed Barry Laxton, and he told her, and it's quoted in that article, I shot into the, he's talking about himself, Laxton, the guy that shot at us, I shot into the uninhabited wooded area across the street. Okay, he admits to her that he's shooting into our property where my wife and Brandy were standing. And Brandy only went over to the next door neighbor's property, not Laxton. Laxton lives down the street about a half mile. So he scares Brandy off our property into the next door neighbor's property by maybe 30, 40 feet because he's shooting at her and it scares her. So she runs, and that's what we were doing, rounding up. And
all right, so y'all already know what time it is. It's time to break down another one of Mike Parsons' lies. You already heard what Mike said. This specific lie falls into the category of physical impossibilities. What Mike is saying here is simply physically impossible. It's completely incompatible with the topography and the layout of the area. All right, so what we got here is aerial photographs, courtesy of Google Maps or Google Earth, of the three properties in question. For those who don't know, Mike lives over here at the northeast. This is roughly the property line. The Burnett house and the hangar is south of the property line. Laxton, as you can see here, lives in this little area here. I don't know if that includes the pond, but let's assume it doesn't. Alright, so, according to Mike, Laxton scared the dog onto the Burnett property by about 40 feet, more or less. That's what he's saying. So, assuming... I mean, Jesus. Alright, so assuming that the dog is over here, in order to scare the dog onto the Burnett property, you would need to scare the dog in a southward direction. What's the problem here? Laxton lives southwest of Mike Parsons, so he can only scare the dog towards the Parsons property. Laxton cannot scare. This is so stupid. It's hard to like explain how the insanity, the incongruity of it. Laxton can't circle around the globe and scare the dog south into the Burnett property. It's impossible. If Laxton is leaving his house, as both Mike and Laxton claim, and he's scaring the dog is going to move away from the Laxton property onto Mike's property. More disturbingly, this here, the idea that the dog and the wife were here on the property and it got pushed 40 feet, that's just impossible. All right, from Mike's own account, the dog was here south of the pond. This is about 300 feet south into the Burnett property. It's not 40 feet as Mike claims. In fact, let's go to his own write-up so you guys can get an idea. Okay, as always, this is from MikeParsons.org. This is his own written account of what happened, and I think Mike doesn't realize that this written statement incriminates him. But okay, here we go. Our dog Brandy heard my voice and left the pond and ran in my direction to the east. She never ran toward Laxton, and as she ran around the pond to me, Laxton looked at me and then moved toward Brandy and continued to shout at her as she ran towards me towards the hill. This is a key line. The dog was running east, and she ran around the pond to Mike. Let me highlight the other important point of Mike's statement that contradicts his whole story. Mike writes, Laxton looked at me and then moved toward Brandy and continued to shoot at her as she ran towards me up the hill. Mike, throughout the entire trial, claims that land is flat, but in his written account of the statement, he says that the dog was running uphill. If that we'll get into why that is important, but let's go back to the map. All right, so we got Laxton going west from his house. He does admit that he crossed the street to get a better shot. All right, so if the dog needs to move across east and to go across the pond to get to Mike, because remember that Mike crossed the property line around here. Mike's own account places the dog way the heck over here at a point consistent. Well, let's break this down here. There's some what's it called? Frater and I have a debate here. Not a debate. What's a disagreement over here in terms of what the ditch? Both King testified that the dog was shot near a ditch. It's not clear if it's this thing here, while Frater says the ditch is closer over here. But in either case, because Mike says that the dog had to move around the pond east to get to Mike, that means that the dog was south of the pond, near, ironically, near the ditch, as Mike and as Laxton and King both said. But anyways, the general direction that all three of the witnesses to the shooting of the dog, Mike, King, and Laxton, all agree that the dog was moving east-northeast towards Mike's property. The idea that the dog was scared southwest towards Laxton's property, towards the Burnett property, is a complete invention fiction. It's the exact opposite of what happened. And you know, at some point we're going to get into where Mike was and where the wife was, because if you listen to where Mike says that his wife was and where his wife testified she said that she was at the front of the property. Now that can mean two things. She could mean in front of her house. And keep it. This is important. If you're only listening to the trial audio, you could get confused based on it. But look, this is the driveway to Mike's house, and that's a whole other story. Because apparently he got into a dispute with the neighbor because actually, we'll get into that another. Mike did get into a dispute with a neighbor apparently over getting boxed into the property, which makes me think that he was trying to reach one of the other roads here to the sides without permission. So that's a whole other thing. But anyways, Mike's wife says that she was at the front of the property on the driveway, which places her either over here, which is a gigantic distance from the shooter, or as Mike says, this is the wooded property, the wooded area that Mike keeps referring to. If she was at the front of the property by the driveway, as she says, and King is Laxton. Oh, we're assuming that Laxton is over here, more or less. As Mike says, he's a fat guy. He's about 60 or 70 years old, so he can't move that much. So, after shooting the dog, Laxton couldn't have moved that much to end up near the to hide the gun in the pickup truck. So Laxton's got to be around here, which means that in order this is what Mike actually testified here. He was afraid that Laxton shooting at the dog, which, let's clear this up. All right, we got the dog somewhere in this area. We got Laxton somewhere in this area. and the wife is over here, Mike is saying that his wife was shot at when King is shooting at the dog over here. Which means that, wait, okay, in order for that to happen, Laxton would need to be shooting, first of all, across the pond, this is about 400, 500 feet. Then Laxton's bullet would also need to travel, it's not visible in the aerial photograph, but this is like elevated. It's like a little hill. So the bullet would need to travel through all these woods in order to hit Mike's wife on the driveway. When I was listening to the audio of the trial, you would think that it's like a normal, well, not a normal, like it's a suburban situation where driveways are close to one another, and it's the complete opposite here. The Burnett driveway is this here, and Mike's driveway is all the way to the north end of his property. It's at the complete opposite end. So their driveways are not close at all. So it's no wonder that the jury didn't believe that his wife was in danger. Now, by the way, measure out these distances and go to like an open field and see how far away those distances are. Someone standing that far away, you can barely see them. So hitting them with a .22 rifle at that distance, he wouldn't even be able to see her because look at all the trees that are in the way. It wouldn't happen. Anyways, more importantly, if we got the dog here, we got King Laxton somewhere around here, and Mike is over here, somewhere in this area, because again, Mike says that the dog had to go across the pond, around the pond to get to him, which places him north of the around the driveway of the bird. By the way, look at how ridiculous this is. Mike walked all the way the heck across his land, jumped the fence, crossed around the Burnett house with a loaded handgun, and then south over here all the way down to the damn hangar with a loaded handgun. That is so. I mean, it's just so brazen. It's I don't know. It's such an insane thing to do. If King had decided to shoot Mike dead, he would have been completely justified because he'd be on King's property or his father-in-law's property, etc. But anyways, okay, I'm getting carried. Okay, look, if we believe, if Laxton is shooting at the dog, he's shooting in this direction. Mike would be separate. Mike would not be in the shooting trajectory of bullets. But more importantly, again, if the wife is over here, as Mike testifies, and Mike is over here, either Laxton shoots at his wife or Laxton shoots at Mike. He can't be shooting at both of them at the same time. Let's say they're at least 40 degrees apart from each other. And again, remember all the references to the flatness of the land? All right, this is kind of downhill, and then this is downhill. So it's like a V. So as Laxton is shooting at the dog, he's shooting downwards. And remember that a dog is 2 to 3 feet tall. So even if the land was flat, Laxton still has to shoot down to hit the dog. Meanwhile, Mike is here at an elevated position, which would mean that he was, even if from a 2D perspective, the shots are lined up, which is kind of hard. You can kind of line them up, but it depends really on where Mike would be. But the point is, Laxton would be shooting. I'll draw him for you guys. See, Laxton would be shooting downwards at the dog. I guess that's what the dog here. Meanwhile, Mike would be over here at an elevated position, at least, say, 300 feet away. So he was simply never shot at, and that's why the jury didn't believe him. In addition to all the lies he said. All right. So, but anyways, to sum it up, the idea that Laxton scared the dog southwest into the Burnett property is insane, because Laxton lives southwest of the dog. He can't scare the dog towards him. That's simply not how it works.